So this is the main build facility, the Devonshire Dock Hall. As you can see, currently at the minute we've got 3 boats in build. This is currently what we're working to now. This is modular construction, where we do vertical build along with the construction vision towers. Once the units have been outfitted, as far as is possible, we'll drop them and then they'll do a horizontal combination. And that's how they build the boat up. Basically start off with the tin of beans, vertical, then they'll turn it horizontal once it's been outfitted, and they'll join it together to get your boat.
And it is completely covered in or surrounded by scaffolding, but I can see underneath it the shape of what looks much more like a long, huge black tube, like a submarine.
It is indeed a long, huge black tube. And as you can see, in between the scaffolding there, you see all the acoustic tiles. It is designed specifically to mask the sound that the submarine emits to make it virtually indetectable. Right. The tiles are unique in the way that they actually absorb sound and don't transmit anything. So they mask the actual sound waves emitted from the boat.
Yeah, they look a bit like giant bathroom tiles.
They do indeed. I assure you, they don't feel like and don't weigh as light as bathroom tiles.
People say the Astute-class boats contain more technology than a space shuttle, but they're newer, of course. The Navy is still sea trialling the first, HMS Astute, and the second one, HMS Ambush, is due to leave Barrow at the end of 2011 or early 2012. The plan is for a full fleet of 7. But the long-term future of the yard and Barrow depends on whether or not the government decides to replace the Trident missile programme, which currently relies on a fleet of 4 Vanguard submarines built in Barrow. Barrow's Labour MP is John Woodcock.
There are very difficult negotiations which are underway with contracts on the Astute boats at the moment, and the greater fear remains that the delay to the Trident successor programme and the fact that we are not going to be taking a vote on whether to go ahead in this Parliament anymore, that the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats have kicked this into the next Parliament, puts that added degree of uncertainty and risk over those jobs, which frankly no one needs right at the moment.
But there are other people in Barrow who see the town and its attempts to survive rather differently from the industrialists. I found an organisation called Art Gene, for instance, which describes itself as an independent art research facility, run since 2002 by 2 visual artists, Maddie Nicholson and Stuart Bastick. I went to visit them at their building, a renovated college on Abbey Road. Maddie and Stuart see Barrow as a test bed for their work in regenerating the whole environment, not just the buildings in the town centre, but everywhere, all the islands of Barrow.
Regeneration is a kind of a worldwide movement. It's not just something that happens in Barrow. It's a formula that's kind of applied, an economic formula really, that's applied across the board, across the world. And really what we're kind of interested in is kind of nibbling away at that a little bit and not kind of having it be applied in such a sort of methodological way. We're trying to change it slightly and bring other things to the fore so that we retain the character of the town, really. I mean, it doesn't just become an anywhere sort of town like everywhere else. What we're kind of really focused on is drawing out the things that are kind of particular to Barrow and trying to find a way to retain them and have them valued.
You've got all that heavy industry happening right here in the middle of the town, and the sort of detritus of that, and all the interesting artefacts. But also you've got some of the most gobsmacking coastlines. We've got 8 islands in Barrow and amazing natural wildlife. We've got bird sanctuaries and triple SIs all around Barrow. Often people say to me, "What are you living there for?" In that sort of really, like, my God, it must be really awful. Yet they've no sense of actually that odd combination of contradictions that you have, of that really astonishing industry as well as that amazing beauty together. And that because they're so close, you can move from one to another very, very quickly. So you get there's a real interesting mix, and I think that's what's fascinating for us, and that's one of the reasons why we've stayed. But one of the reasons why we have the ability to bring artists and architects from all around the world to this place that's small enough to get round really quickly and be able to see all those things.
I heard a lot more about triple SIs, or sites of special scientific interest, when I went to one of Art Gene's design cafe events one night, where people were discussing sustainable development. The reason? Walney Island is where many nature reserves are situated. With Sellafield Nuclear Power Station not far up the coast to the north, Walney is at the south end of what's referred to as the Energy Coast, close to a massive wind farm out at sea, a gas terminal, and there could be more to come. And much of the land isn't in public hands, I discovered, when a member of the public spoke up.
The plea is, it's in the national interest, so we don't count. All those gas pipes that came ashore, there was plenty of objections. It's in the national interest, we don't count. The new national grid is coming right down the coast, all the way down the coast to take all these windmills, because Asians at capacity now with this last wind farm, they're going to destroy the area.
If you were in control, what would you do about it in terms of the national grid and the wind farm or any of those?
The only thing you should be discussing are sites that are in your control, which is Peel Island and Bigger Bank. The rest of it is all in private ownership and nothing to do with you people whatsoever.
So, even some of the beautiful bits of Barrow may not be 100% secure. But I'm not here to portray landowners or developers in a bad light. After all, they shaped Barrow in the first place, creating things like Abbey Road, the great tree-lined boulevard that takes you from the docks at one end to the ruins of a medieval abbey at the other. On it, you'll find Barrow Park, where there's an old house occupied by a group called Octopus, John Hall, Andrew Deakin and Glenn Bolter. They're sound artists. And during the cold November of 2010, they were working with a guest artist, Paul Rooney, installing a piece called Spit Valve in the well-preserved Park Bandstand.
There's a danger with regeneration that what you do is you tend to build replicas of other places. I have this kind of little, when I get on my high horse about it, which I do quite a lot. It's to do with the idea that there's a will almost to turn Barrow into Preston, and then there's a will to turn Preston into Manchester, and then a will to turn Manchester into Barcelona or something like that, rather than look at what's actually there and say how do you retain the beauty and the interest and a bit of the weirdness as well, a bit of the oddness.
It struck me Octopus are taking a bit of the industrial past with its brass bands and proud public parks, and without sentiment making it contemporary and fun. So post-industrial Barrow, from which the ships once flew, certainly stimulates creative action, interpretation and ideas. But as I left the park and I was standing at a bus stop on Abbey Road, I got a polite reminder of something else relevant to the town.
What's that?
It's a recording machine.
All right. What's it for? Just like anything?
I'm making a radio programme.
About what?
About Barrow.
All right.
Do you live here?
Yeah, I live here.
How old are you?
24.
What do you do for a living?
Nothing. Yeah.
Do you think Barrow's a good place to live?
Yeah. It's all right. Not so bad.
What do you like about it best?
Everything. Just everything.
You're on a bike. Where do you go on your bike?
Everywhere. I'm going to the doctor's at the moment. I'm going to be late.
Sorry to make you late. Take care. Yes, undeniably, there is worklessness in Barrow. The situation was explained to me by Barrow's MP, John Woodcock.
There is very significant deprivation in Barrow, and there is a scar of benefit dependency. We have got to tackle that scar of benefit dependency, and we've got to provide help and often actually a bit of tough love and a shove for people who find themselves back on benefit. But we've got to be able to find opportunities for people to go to.
I wonder what tough love will mean to the 24-year-old on the bike. I kept wondering what I'd do if I was younger and I was living in Barrow. One local drama company, the Ashton Group, are trying to address the problems experienced in Barrow by teenagers. Working exclusively with young people, they perform new work in theatres all over the north. Their latest piece, entitled Hollows, written by young Cumbrian playwright Alex Malarkey, deals directly with teenage experience. It stars Jordan Hillman, Scott McGuckin, Molly McGlynn and Ben Alexander. They pay their actors, Rachel Ashton assured me. They're well established, although funding isn't always a pushover.
Chris, don't tell me you've been taken in as well.
What?
Did that army guy fool you too?
Oh, no.
Thank goodness, someone with some sense.
It's 3 lads and a girl, and the boys decided they're going in the army. Because, of course, again, the army, places like Barrow, Whitehaven, Workington, are prime recruiting grounds for the armed services, for all the reasons we can imagine, you know. So, in fact, we've had... There's a number of kids in our youth theatre at the moment who are wanting to go into the army.
I can't believe you all. Your lives here are so boring. You think you can go and fight in some noble battle and that it'll all be all right?
We're funded by the Arts Council and Barrow Borough. After that, we're funded by a kind of mosaic of people, including North West Development Agency, as was, through our local strategic partnership, Furness Enterprise, Barrow Regeneration, which no longer exists, and fantastic charities that have supported us over the years, such as Northern Rock and the Sir John Fisher Foundation and the very wonderful Cumbria Community Foundation, which was set up in the wake of Foot and Mouth. And so really get behind Cumbrian organisations.
Do you think you're going to survive?
I think we will, because we're needed.
The guy was there to tell us what the army does.
You got that number with you, Chris? I might give him a ring now.